Hello everyone! Join us in an exciting exploration of the limits of the possible, where every experiment can lead to unexpected disaster. Today's agenda features the most epic failures and crash tests that demonstrate how the greatest inventions can fail the test of reality. With each failure and each crash, the stakes get higher and the intrigue deepens. Are you ready to witness these moments of tension and drama? Get ready for an outstanding journey through a world of failures that leave behind lessons and admiration. The bridge will long remember that terrible day when disaster struck in one brief moment. The shocking footage is now forever etched in the history of the place. One small mistake on the road, and the consequences can be irreparable. Take care of yourself, because every moment on the road can be decisive. Today seems to be an unfortunate day for our metal friends on wheels. Problems follow one after another, and it appears that no car guy has escaped trouble. Indeed, one wonders what could have prompted the driver to try to duck under the bridge with such an inappropriately sized vehicle. He probably thought he could manage to slip through, but clearly miscalculated. Maybe he wasn't trained well enough in emergency braking, or perhaps fatigue did its job and he fell asleep at the wheel. This is a reminder to all drivers that emergency braking skills and vigilance behind the wheel are vital. Well, the loading of the car clearly didn't go to plan. Now, another unexpected trouble was added to the list of worries. While road accidents are commonplace, this accident is clearly out of the ordinary. It's complete chaos that defies all rules and standards of road safety. A passenger car created an extremely dangerous situation on the highway, which in fact led to catastrophic consequences. The reckless behavior on the road turned into a tragedy, leaving behind a trail of destruction and chaos. What a weirdo! The driver manages to drive his car, loaded to capacity, so fast on the road that even the most experienced racer can't keep up with him. Recovering vehicles from falls on steep slopes or off the side of the road requires some skill. But as current success demonstrates, this task, while seeming like Herculean labor, is actually quite achievable with the proper equipment and experience. Alas, powerful machines are prone to such deafening falls, and nothing can be changed here. Such is the fate of their majestic size and weight. Just two collapsed pillars were enough for the entire large, massive structure to crash to the ground like dominoes. The complexity of the Terex multi-wheeled loader and truck situation was so great that it caused everyone present to freeze. The giant machines, tangled in an unexpected dilemma, created a moment of tense anticipation until a solution was found. Loading a long container should have been a routine operation, but the situation got out of control. At one point, both the container, the loader, and even the ship found their resting place underwater, flipping over and providing a sight no one expected to see. A massive crane, whose task was to move a massive concrete part of the bridge, failed at the most crucial moment. The result was a cloud of dust and frustration in the air. It was like a steam locomotive rushing along the tracks of a century ago, no less. Well, who dares to take tight turns while carrying such a heavy and oversized cargo? Apparently, the driver feels like a Schumacher on the racetrack. But unfortunately, public roads are no place for racing, especially with such a load. It's difficult to imagine how he could hope to hold the heavy vehicle with his bare hands, even on a slope. The advantage was clearly not on his side, and this became obvious when the forces of nature took over. Even formidable and powerful tracked vehicles sometimes find themselves in a predicament that requires outside help. Without this support, the scenario quickly turns into a critical aha situation where every minute counts. Well, the vehicle, despite its unusual nature, could not withstand the turbulent river flow. As a result, large-size equipment had to be brought in for rescue. Indeed, the task turned out to be more difficult than expected. The driver made a fatal oversight, forgetting to consider the height of his vehicle. His vehicle was simply left without a roof in a matter of seconds, having failed to pass the dimensions. Incredibly, even a massive metal structure can fold up, literally like a house of cards. The sight is astonishing and demonstrates the fragility of even the strongest things. It's hard to even imagine how long it will take to rebuild everything. This moment of destruction is like a slow-motion movie, where every second takes forever. The powerful crane, a symbol of engineering, gave way under the weight of its load. As it collapsed, it left no chance of rescue, dramatically demonstrating the limits of its capabilities. Again, the giant machine failed the test of tension and culminated its action with a dramatic fall. As it toppled over, it put on a visual show, reminding us of how grandiose the consequences of mechanical failures can be. For this driver, the soft ground on the road proved to be a terrifying ordeal, as his car failed on a slope and crashed. This was a real test moment, highlighting the risks associated with driving in such conditions. It appears that these two giants of construction equipment slightly overestimated their capabilities. Their diligence in their work resulted in the need to start all over again, but from the other side. The collapse of the quarry raised a gigantic cloud of dust into the air, obscuring everything around. In this storm, you might not have noticed the tractor standing in the distance, deftly dodging the flying debris, as if participating in a spectacular dance. For this crane, tough tasks are just an excuse to show what it can do. Turn over a massive car and get it back on its wheels? Easy. This is what helping out in a difficult situation looks like. First, you help out your metal friend, and then you find yourself in a predicament yourself. This is a reminder that even good deeds can sometimes have the most unexpected consequences. Like the great myth of the Colossus, This structure seemed majestic until it began to crumble. With every crack and creak as it fell, it created an emotional spectacle, causing all onlookers to hold their breath in admiration and fear. The crane on the ship gave in under the weight of the cargo, and its fall froze the surrounding air. All the spectators instantly held their breath. Even the strongest mechanisms are not immune to disasters. It was hard to believe, but instantly the gigantic structure on the ship folded in two, as if it were a soft and pliable material. The atmosphere around what was happening was very tense. The powerful and seemingly impenetrable car failed the test of falling from a height. In the first serious test, its steel body folded like some cardboard, emphasizing the discrepancy between expectations and reality. It's hard to say exactly what goals the workers had in mind when they used this elevator. But it's safe to say, they miraculously avoided a total collapse. On the verge of failure, the machine barely kept its balance, causing tension with every wobbly movement. Loading a long container should have been a routine operation, but the situation got out of control. At one point, both the container, the loader, and even the ship found their resting place underwater, flipping over and providing a sight no one expected to see. As you can see, the task of rescuing vehicles stranded on the side of the road sometimes turns into a real challenge. The complexity is multiplied by unforeseen circumstances, making each operation unique and requiring non-standard solutions. Two tractors almost pulled the stranded truck out of trouble, but luck turned at the very last moment. Instead of a triumph, however, he suffered a crushing defeat. The lumber truck on the verge of overturning took everyone's breath away, completely paralyzing traffic. But in the end, gravity took over and it tipped over on its side. The road became the stage for an epic failure. Alas, the giant vehicle falling sideways was an inevitable disaster. And here's another poor bastard on wheels, whose fate was dramatic. At some point, he was simply toppled over in the middle of the road, like a marionette in a gust of wind. The turn was too steep for the car and sent it mercilessly to the ground. As if that weren't enough, the cargo spilled outward with a deafening crash, adding to the chaos. The wet mud on the road was a real test for the vehicle. Alas, the vehicle failed the severe test and got stuck, surrendering to the natural obstacle. The tractor found itself in a desperate situation and spectacularly tumbled down the slope. It was a real show when the powerful machine suddenly found itself at the bottom, as if in slow motion. It seemed that the crane had already coped with the heavy task of bringing the huge bambina into place. But suddenly, the baton took over, and pulling the machinery behind it, overturned it and left the spectators in shock. Here's another phenomenal moment, when the overshoot caused the giant car to soar into the air. It was a spectacular and incredible moment, as if the machine had decided to fly. Building, building, building. And such an unexpected ending. Instantly, everything that seemed inviolable collapsed like a house of cards, leaving only a cloud of dust and disappointment. The most important thing to mention is that no one was injured in the grand fall. A tremendous stroke of luck indeed, and cause for relief. Failure. The dimensions of the load did not allow passing under the bridge. Now, the driver has to find a detour to get the cargo to its destination.
Oi.
Oh, those woeful drivers. With such dangerous maneuvers, they're straight back to driving school to retake their license. A little more, and it seemed that the overturn of the truck was inevitable. However, fortunately, the situation was less tragic than it seemed at the time. Oops! The loading crane clearly failed a bit in its task. In the end, the result of its work leaves a lot to be desired. What could be scarier than the fall of massive machinery? Only the moment it erupts, turning into a fiery inferno and causing chaos and terror among the witnesses.
Wow.
The fall of such a giant crane is a moment when time seems to slow down.
Time to stop.
And every centimeter of the fall brings the inevitable collision with the ground closer, causing the audience to freeze. The force of the wreck makes you freeze. The devastation was enormous. The main thing is that in such a critical situation, human casualties were avoided. The big machines tried to pull their metal companion out of trouble, but all their efforts were in vain. The situation only worsened, dragging them all into more chaos. The tractor, like a circus performer, decided to demonstrate its unique abilities, maneuvering on two wheels. You see, even the world of machines has its own magicians, proving that impossible is just a word. The rear of the car, overloaded, took over from the front, and in one enchanting moment, the car stood on its rear wheels as if testing gravity. Oh, he had chosen this path in vain. Now his adventure ended with an unexpected stop. The car lay on its side in the thick swamp, like an ancient shipwreck, waiting to be rescued from its wet captivity. How fortunate that help arrived at a critical moment. Otherwise, without this necessary support, it would have been almost impossible to cope with the situation. You shouldn't have been in such a hurry to climb onto the forklift. And now the consequences are there for all to see. The unfortunate outcome of the fall speaks for itself. Hasty actions often lead to undesirable results, and this case is no exception. I almost reached the top, but at the most crucial moment, the car lacked strength. As a result, I had to carefully roll backwards, driving down the hill in reverse. Despite the significant obstacle, the driver managed to maintain control and stay on all wheels. This is true driving skill. It just so happens that sometimes one wrong decision or small mistake can cause huge problems. Like dominoes falling from a slight jolt, this mistake sets off a series of failures, proving that little things are not so little. This incident serves as a prime example of how ignoring the limits of technology can end in the most real tragedy. Once again, the story ends in sadness, without the need for unnecessary words. The images literally speak for themselves, like silent witnesses of failure, leaving behind a heavy silence. As if the collapse itself wasn't horrifying enough, the natural disaster decided to add to the chaos, aiming to take everything in its path with it, including the remaining machinery. Years went into the construction. Every brick was laid with hopes and expectations, but everything collapsed instantly. It's difficult to accept such an injustice when so much effort is turned into ashes. My heart sank at the mere sight of this scene. After such a terrible fall of machinery, the guys were apparently really born with their shirts on. They remained unharmed, which seemed like an absolute miracle. Well, that's the kind of trouble that happens occasionally. Fortunately, the driver was able to jump out of the unfortunate car in time, dodging more serious consequences. Most likely, no one could imagine seeing such a thing on the railroad tracks. But as we see, the world is full of surprises, and sometimes they're waiting for us where we don't expect them at all. Yeah, you could say the technicians are lucky. It stayed where it was, but it could have turned out very differently. It's not every day you avoid worst-case scenarios in unpredictable situations like this. This is what happens when the exit trajectory is calculated incorrectly. Haste and lack of caution lead to undesirable consequences. As they say, you make people laugh rushing. But in this case, the result was far from funny. Maybe the driver was simply counting on his steering skills. Or perhaps he simply underestimated the obstacle. Either way, this is a prime example of how critical it is to realistically assess the situation on the road. Everyone seemed to be shocked by what was happening, people and machines alike. It's rare to see an event affect everyone so deeply, causing an equally strong reaction of surprise and bewilderment. After its violent flight, this technology is beyond salvageable. It has become more than just a damaged machine. Now, it's just a pile of scrap metal, a reminder of the power of unstoppable forces and the unpredictability of technical failures. This buddy is clearly not afraid of danger, and seems to be deliberately going for it. His fearless maneuvers cause both admiration and anxiety, as he seems ready to challenge any obstacle. And rightly so. Why does he need that wheel at all? Maybe he has an entirely unique idea of how machinery should work. In such a situation, this is not enviable. The guy is faced with a choice of whom to save first, the technique or himself from its unexpected behavior. This dilemma requires instant reaction and a clear mind to get out of it with minimal losses. Once again, the technique failed. The load exceeded its capabilities, and once again, the fall occurred. Although this is a familiar sight, it's still an impressive reminder that even the routine can be dramatic. At first, everything looked perfect on the climb, and I thought everything would be fine. But a few moments later, everything changed dramatically. It was a reminder of how quickly things can move, and how unexpectedly things can go wrong. Normal loading? Nope, not us. We're not looking for easy ways, as they say. After all, who doesn't like a little extreme and unpredictable work? It looks like the car is about to fall apart right here, but contrary to expectations, it continues to hold on. The tense moment shows its incredible stability and strength. How unlucky our caterpillar monster was. Not only flipped over several times, but also got into a rushing water stream. This incident turned his adventure into a real drama, reminding us of the fragility of even the most powerful machines in the face of nature. What did he expect when he tested the wooden sticks for strength? Did he not realize that they would break under the weight of his vehicle? Such a short-sighted decision led to very predictable results. Just like that, one wrong move and the cement mixer ends up on its side, with no chance of getting back up again. The incident demonstrates how easy it is to lose control of a heavy machine and how dire the consequences can be. The attempt to pull his partner from the roadside turned out to be a real ordeal. Apparently, the task was much more difficult than they had imagined at first, and now they were both stuck in this difficult situation. This is what a classic epic fender bender looks like. It looks like the driver completely lost sight of the dimensions of the rear of his car and slammed into the bridge. The result is an accident that could have been avoided with proper caution. It's the kind of tech wrecks that leaves you speechless. It's good that the driver is okay. He was just scared. In situations like this, safety should always come first. Cutting down a tall tree turned out to be a difficult task that ended up being too disastrous for the machinery itself. In the course of the task, the equipment was subjected to considerable damage, which cannot be overlooked. Did you think it was about to flip over too? Well, it didn't. Instead, the technique simply broke down. This development was unexpected and added even more problems to the already existing situation. The cars in the path of this coil are definitely out of luck. The driver running alongside looks like he can stop it, but that seems unlikely. In the end, machinery and humans are powerless before the uncontrollable object. Well, is the swimming season open? Except that instead of a swimmer, a car dived in, and it doesn't seem to be rushing to surface. The unforeseen swimmer became the main event of the day, despite the distraught driver. Have you ever experienced a real rock fall? It's better not to see it with your own eyes, believe me. The spectacle is frightening in its power and uncontrollability, reminding you of the unpredictability of natural phenomena. In just 1 second, a natural cataclysm demolishes everything in its path. It's good that people had time to orient themselves in this situation, although fear and panic were strong. Wow, technology can do wonders. Who would have thought that big machines could perform such maneuvers? The spectacle definitely opens up new horizons of possibilities for heavy machinery. How is the car still holding up in a pile of metal? Judging by the footage, it'll fall apart at any moment if it continues to participate in such adventures. It appears that one more test and it will finally give up. Yes, there are amphibious vehicles, but this caterpillar vehicle is clearly not one of them. Apparently, the frightened driver did not expect such a turn of events when his car found itself in the water. Such a fateful turn of events. Well, and lastly, you can either enjoy or be horrified by some shots. Either way, they look breathtaking, showing the drama and unexpectedness of the situation. Thank you for watching Smart Tech. We try to make good content for you. Every day we work for you. Video editor, screenwriter, designer, and content manager. We'll see you in the next video.